My name is Fraser.
My name is Mark.
And we are the hosts of the geekiest show alive. To the outside world, we're ordinary geeks.
But in the Fab International Studios, we talk comics and find other geeks just like us. This is Geek of the Week. Does it live every week?
Live every week. So, Pull or Pass is the section of the show where we take a look at free comic books, typically free, sometimes more, but we usually stick with the free because it's a lot to read. And we take a look at them. Usually they've come out this week or they might come out a week before. A second issue might be coming out at some point.
We do try and read usually try and read something that's been out this week, but sometimes we have to push them back because we can't get the copy from the shop or whatever.
There's just like so much out this week, or there's like a quiet week where we have to go, okay, nothing's really out this week, so we'll have a look back. But it's one of them as well. We sort of, it's like going into a comic book store and picking some stuff for that. Like we've done in the past where I've gone into a random comic book store and gone, oh, that's a one.
Yeah.
How's that? And there has been more to that series, and we say whether we want to carry it on. So the Pull or Pass part of it is when we pick up these books, we read them and we either pull them or pass them. And if you're like, what does this word pull mean? And usually my introduction to Pull or Pass is much more smooth. I apologise about this.
No, you got this.
But we're back on track. When you pick up, let's say you pick up, we've just been playing Sin City on the radio show. Let's say you pick up a Sin City comic. It could be a 1. You pop it down on the desk.
I wish there were still Sin City comics.
Could be a Sin City 22 or whatever. And let's say we live in a world where there's a continuous Sin City series.
We need more Sin City.
Whenever a Sin City comic book comes out, the clerk will ask, do you want to add this to your pull? You say, yep. Whenever a Sin City comic comes out, they'll put it behind the desk for you. You can come in and be like, hey, what's on my pull? It's like, oh, I've got all these comics coming out. Or they'll be like, oh, nothing this week, but why not check out one of these things and add these to your pull? You can also, if you know something's coming out in the future, you can add it to your pull. We've started doing this because we've been burnt too many times.
Yeah.
And so basically we'll look at the free comics. We say, well, we want to add them to our pull or pass on them. And this week we had a look at, like we say, free comics. And the first comic we are going to talk about is by DC, because this is Red Hood, Outlaw. Or it might be...
it's Red Hood and the Outlaws.
Red Hood and the Outlaws, yeah. I've got it down as semicolon, but it's Red Hood and the Outlaws. This was issue 32. So this is actually like deep into... Is it issue... Have I got this wrong?
It is issue 32.
Yay, yes. Okay, sorry. I'm having a very flustered moment with Pull or Pass.
Calm yourself.
We're back on track.
Get on with
it. If you're a bit worried, you're like, oh my goodness, issue 32, but what about those other 31 issues? They're starting a new story. They're doing like a part 1. So this is another way of getting into comics sometimes. It's just starting off with a kickstart story. And I think this book, you can agree or disagree with me, Mark, sort of... helps with that. It doesn't say you're not thrusted into a story, and it does sort of like have some explanations, and it sort of explains where this story is going to go, and sort of goes, okay, this is Jason at this moment, what you need to know, and what is going to happen in the future.
It does feel like we are explicitly putting a new start point, almost like a new season for a TV show. It definitely is is a new starting point for this comic book. Yes, and it was a good one to put on Pull or Pass for that reason, to see whether or not a reboot but a restart, a starting point is a good place for you to go in and have a look.
And I think I would totally... Like, I haven't read this new Red Hood and the Outlaws since Rebirth. I've read a bit of Red Hood in the past, and it's always been something like... He's not my favourite Robin. It's always going to be Dick Grayson, and I'm always going to pick a Nightwing story. But I do like that the Robins sort of have grown out of Batman, or grown out of that Robin mantle, and have picked something up. Red Hood's story is really cool as well. Like, the whole, like, death of the family, or... Yeah, death of the family, like, when he dies, and then when he comes back... in Under the Hood, that was it's a cool, if you've seen the animation, it's cool, it's a really cool story, and it's that whole thing of like, Jason's always hurt because, Batman won't kill, and he's like, I understand so-and-so, but the Joker killed me, why not? And reading the comic book is especially heartbreaking because he gets betrayed by his mother and stuff like that, and then the Joker gets him and his mother killed, and you're like, oh. And then he comes back and he's just being mean to Bruce, and you're like, no, you don't understand, Jason.
Right, here's the thing about this. I know who Jason Todd is, and I know that he's the guy that the Robin that died.
Yeah.
But I've not read it, so sorry. This comic book.
I was going to say, how was this for you without all that?
It looked really interesting, and I like the concept of a kind of like former superhero now running some kind of dodgy business, and it worked really well. But
with his Outlaws as well, sort of supporting him.
And I thought the depiction of Batman in an impossible situation was done exceptionally well.
Oh, when he busts through, I'm like, oh, this is cool.
The problem for me with this book is, as cool as it is, the character has so much baggage that I haven't read that it's made me want to pull Jason's backstory more than the book itself stuff. Because I'm interested in the concept, but I don't want to read it until I know Jason's backstory.
There needs to be a term for that, because
that's happened a couple of times with me now as well, I have particularly DC.
I've done it in the past where I've gone, oh, this comic looks cool, and then realise, it's like a repull, so you go back in a push.
a kind of a retro pull, perhaps.
Yeah, and you sort of go back, and you can either do it in trade form or you can do it in the single issues if the comic book store has it, which is why with these it's hard with 32, because it's 31 issues that, you know, comic book store.
But it's not those 31 issues I'm interested in. I'm interested in the older backstory of Jason Todd, how he got to this point.
Yeah. So, like, it can be hard sometimes to go back, or sometimes it is just a matter of reading a few trades so you know the general idea.
So it's difficult. Pull or pass sometimes suggests good or bad, but that's not the case with this. This is a pass for the time being for me, but once I've caught up with Jason Todd, it will be a book that I'm very much interested in trade form.
Oh, that's for sure. And I think it's also a compliment to it. It's like, I don't know anything about Jason Todd, but this has made me interested in it.
I love the concept.
If I did know.
I love the concept. You know
what I really enjoyed? The image of Gotham. It's the way they starts off, and it has, the Jason narration and stuff like that, but he's above it all and all the bright lights and stuff like that, and just his description of how he feels about Gotham, because Gotham's always, with these Bat characters, and especially Batman, Gotham's like part of the identity of the character.
Yeah.
Which I always find is great. I mean, each hero, it's important where they're from. And I think this book's highlighted that it's important that Jason Todd is from Gotham, because it's a place that it affects people in many different ways. Like, you see all the Bat characters, the villains and the heroes. Batman, a lot of his villains and his Robins are people who are in very similar situations to him but have reacted to it differently, like Penguin's the money side, but he turned evil. Penguin pops up in this, which is why I mention it. And Jason's that thing of, like, he's had the similar stuff with Batman, he's had no family and stuff like that, and he's had all this heinous stuff happen to him, but he wants to take revenge where Batman doesn't. And the Outlaws are pretty funny as well. Like, I do like those sort of characters, and it makes it a bit more realistic that he's able to do this new adventure and be a hero at the same time. So I'm going to pull. I'm going to pull on this. Do love Robins. And the next one we're going to talk about is Meet the Skrulls by Marvel. Now, the first issue was out last week. The second issue is out next week. So this is a nice sort of like middle ground. Sort of
sandwich.
Like, exactly. To be like, oh.
We've sandwiched it in the middle.
So what were your thoughts of Meet the Skrulls by Marvel?
I thought it was a very clever concept, and I thought the artwork was great. And I really like the idea of family-based superhero stories.
Yes.
But I'm a big fan of the recent run of The Vision.
Yeah.
And the Vision family, I felt, was done a bit better.
Did it a bit better, yeah.
I think if I hadn't read The Vision, I would have probably pulled this. But because I've read The Vision and I know it can be done better, it's not that this was bad, but I know it can be done
it's that
so
bar, that bar
well.
Has been raised, so
yeah. So it is a pass, but
still a good book.
It is still a good book, and I do think I'd have. I do think at some point I'll pick up the trade,
yeah,
because I didn't dislike it, but I felt it had been done too recently and slightly better than this.
I do like the fact that we, Captain Marvel's come out this week. We talked about the Skrulls being seen in a different light.
Yeah,
It was a nice little fit-in.
It does fit well with that.
And you know what? I've actually made notes, which I'm very proud of myself. And the first thing I wrote was Vision, because it is that thing. It's not only we say like family superheroes, but it's like it's outsiders, non-humans. Because obviously we've got the Skrulls this time. We had the robots with Vision and that family dynamic. And what I like about this is that one of our Skrull characters is been raised on Earth, so he's becoming more human, and that is her downfall. And the way that others are infiltrating in is hilarious. It's that the stereotypical movies like, oh yeah, I got the job, I got a job here, and I'm working my way with the boss. One of the teenage Skrulls is like getting in with the popular kids,
and it feels like when they have those brief periods where the dad's at work and Iron Man turns up. It's like a cutscene in a TV show. It's done really well.
They're just
but not well enough.
They're just Skrulls in a human world.
Yeah.
There is a nice little cameo from Tony Stark. Just like, oh yeah, the boss came into work and it's him crashing in with the Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
I do like the family vibes as well, and also, but it's like them on a mission, and
it was very, very, very close to a pull for me. It's about as close to a pull as it can be with it being a pass. So it was a great comic, and I will probably catch up with it in trade form at some point.
I liked as well the way she turned, because it's the way they introduce. Because at first, obviously, with the Skrulls, the shapeshifters, so you're not entirely sure when they're in human form who is the Skrull and stuff like that. But the way the first one is like they're on this field trip, and there were all these caterpillars and bugs and butterflies, and she turns into one of them to fly away. I was like, oh, nice touch. And then we follow the butterfly into the family home. I was like, oh, nice. And then she goes, not at the dinner table. And you think it's them talking about the phones, and then they all turn into Skrulls. I was like, that's
I like that.
Nice.
Yeah,
I was
I did like that.
Oh, okay. And I do dig the family vibes there. So the writer Robbie Thompson has done a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of other Spidey titles, like he did Silk and stuff like that, and I always enjoyed them. And he's been doing the latest run. Well, the biggest run of Spider-Man, Deadpool. He's been on it since the beginning, and that stuff is funny. So I'm waiting to see some humour in there as well. There was some in this, and I think it'd be an interesting story. And
so, are you pulling this?
Yeah.
Oh, great! I'll borrow yours.
I'll give it a pull. Yeah, so you can borrow mine. And I think in my head, it is one of them. It's like I get 100% what you're saying about like the visions and stuff like that. It is again. It's sort of that similar story, but I'm looking forward to seeing it told with different characters, and how there's slight differences with the Skrulls, because they're worried about getting caught, and obviously there's someone catching the Skrulls and stuff like that at the moment and going on the hunt for them. So I'm looking forward to that sort of aspect of it, and hoping that it is a bit different than the Vision's tale, which I imagine it will be. Fingers crossed, because you don't want to read the same story twice, do you?
No.
Be like, wait, what's this all about? And the last book we're going to talk about is, we wanted it on last week, but unfortunately there was a bit of a distribution error. Like, it got put away, and I don't even think it came out until the Saturday show. So we managed to pick up this week. It was Astro Hustle by Dark Horse. What were your thoughts on Astro Hustle?
This was one of the ones when we did our review of the year at the end of 2018 that I said I was most looking forward to, because it just seems so fun. I like the idea of a limited series that's kind of very tongue-in-cheek take on 70s sci-fi. And what I really liked, and I don't know how they did it, they made it feel like the comic book of a film. The comic book adaptation of a film. Obviously, there isn't a film, but it felt like it was written in a way that was a comic book adaptation of the film. But because it's actually not an adaptation of the film, it's not naff, because they normally are naff. We put that Avengers one we read a few months back.
Yeah, probably a prelude. Yeah,
awful.
Oh no, not a fan of preludes.
and most comic book adaptations of a film are naff, whereas this kind of almost it cleverly made it feel like that, but wasn't naff.
Yeah,
and it's really caught the campy 70s sci-fi vibe that I was hoping it was gonna have.
I think it's that thing of being influenced by those films.
Yeah,
so it is almost like we've amalgamated all these films together and then done an comic book adaptation of that. I did like the art style because the art style felt like something from a comic from the 70s.
It felt really apt, didn't it? It felt right.
As soon as I clicked on it, as soon as I flicked through it, I was like, yes. I was like, we saw the images of it, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is. And you got into the vibes, and it's just like, because there are things that are set in like 80s, 90s or something, and they'll still have the modern art style because it's like, no, you're reading a comic book in this time, but it's set here. But they were like, no, we're going all in on this. We're going to even make it feel like you've picked this up from the 70s, almost like you found it, in a time capsule or something.
It felt like an artistic project rather than just another comic book to me. It felt like we want to keep it short, we want to do this, we want to homage the gleeful campiness of 70s sci-fi stuff, and we just want to do a short run, and it's going to be great fun. And
that's the main thing as well.
They did it brilliantly.
The main character, the Astro hustle, like the disco lead, we don't see him till the end. So this was, again, like you say, it was more emphasising the art style.
And like we were a quarter way through the story.
The art project, because it's only a 4-issue thing, and this was highlighting the art project, and then we meet this character who's going to lead us through. So it's one of them, again, like we always say with some comics, it gets you in, especially with the comics you tend to read. It gets you in with the art, and then you get the story.
Yeah,
which I always think is nice. We always talk about, whenever we talk about Image, obviously this is a Dark Horse book, so it's nice to see that from another company. It's like you're getting in by that.
Dark Horse have been red hot recently, to be fair.
Yeah, we've been checking a lot of their stuff out on Pull Up Pass, because it was one of them where you know, when you go through the book, you're like, oh, we've done that, oh, we've done that, oh, we've done that, oh, that's coming up soon. And I really dug that. 70s vibe, and I'm looking forward. It is going to be a pull for me.
It is going to be a pull for me too.
Now that we've got that disco Astro hustle, I'm looking forward to just getting even more 70s and even more, let's say, disco. I think Disco Steel would pull this from
So it's a double pull. That's quite rare.
I know, yeah.
That is quite rare. Go Astro Hustle.
Mainly because
I'm looking forward to more.
So we want to know your thoughts on these books and more. What came out this week? What did you pull? What did you pick up and pass on? What did you see straight away and was like, nah, I'm passing on that. I'm never reading that book. And if you have read these books, like we say, is it a pull? Is it a pass for you? We've got polls on Twitter, Facebook, but you can also share your thoughts on YouTube on the comment section below, but also share your thoughts on our Facebook, on our Twitter about books you did pick up. We're always interested to hear what you fellow geeks are thinking as well. I just want to shout out as well, last week, Morning in America, that poll was fire.
Yeah.
I would shout out to we got a retweet from the creators and stuff like that, and hearing the feedback for that was a very nice thing. I was like, oh,
people agreed with us as well, because it was a great book.
It was a pull. Like I think it's like 95%, and I was like, yeah, totally. Which made us, I think, feel more justified. It's like, oh, we are saying it right, because it's hard sometimes with those polls, on those polls, because you're like, oh wait, was I way wrong with this, or no one seems to like this, and it's just nice. It's nice sometimes. So listen to Geek of the Week. Be sure to tune in next week. Same geek time, same geek channel.
And if you want to follow us on social media, it's at GOTW Radio on Twitter. Search for Geek of the Week Radio Show on Facebook. And to listen again, it's www.mixcloud.com/Geek of the Week Radio Show.